Hello, welcome to episode 134 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, 1959's The 400 Blows, which is a literal translation of the original French title, although it more means to give hell, apparently. That's the spirit of it. And this is a film by the French director François Truffaut, who I've heard many things about over the years. This is finally, I believe, my first Truffaut film that I've seen, and it is one of the ones I've heard a lot about. It's often referred to as one of those classics of world cinema. I remember Ryan Chataway talking about it years ago, like I think about 5 years ago. He did this this big series about his 50 favourite films at the time, and The 400 Blows ranked pretty high on his list, and he talked about how he related to it and stuff and how much he loved it. So it's always been on my radar. I had my eye on the Criterion edition for a while, but I eventually picked up over Christmas this year the Artificial Eye box set, The Adventures of Antoine Donnel, which collects the 5 films that Truffaut made about the same character, which was played by the same actor over a number of years. But The 400 Blows is the original, and the one that is talked about more than any of the other ones, and is why it's included in the book, of course. So the film itself, set in Paris, and it very much feels like a love letter to the city of Paris in a lot of ways. I love just seeing all the city streets and all the little alleys and stuff, and the opening sequences, the credits come up on screen. We get like lots of shots of the Eiffel Tower and stuff. It very much feels like someone who's from that country kind of showing off their city and kind of their culture. I thought that's the impression I got from it, and yeah, there's just something about it I really like, just looking at the locations of it. The story of the film focuses on a young teenage boy named Antoine who is going through a little bit of trouble at home and at school. He's constantly getting into trouble, and you can tell that his relationship with his parents is strained. It's not like a terrible abusive thing or anything, but like you can just tell that he is just struggling with the authority of everyone in his life, and he is constantly running away, constantly doing what he's not supposed to do. He's rebelling against the system, so to speak. And you can kind of see why he does it, and you can kind of see why he probably shouldn't do it at the same time. You kind of get a little bit of both sides of that, I think. And even the parents, like, they make not questionable decisions, but you kind of wonder, like, is that really the best thing to do as a parent? But then just through the naturalistic feel of the scenes, I started to feel like I could see where both sides were coming from. And that the film has a very almost documentary style feel to it in terms of the naturalism. Like, it just felt like I was watching people caught in a documentary movie, you know. And very interestingly enough, to kind of go along with that point, I think on the Blu-ray that I got of the film, there's a screen test of the actor who plays Antoine, and he literally is just like the character. And the audition isn't really a scene from the film as much as it is I guess the director or the filmmaker, the producer, talking to this young actor and asking him about himself. And he's talking about himself, and he feels very much like a kind of kid about town, which is what the character is. So you can see they cast him very deliberately, so that they wouldn't have to coach him much. I don't know, because it felt very believable. His performance as Antoine, and obviously he is the heart of the film, and so you need that character to be right, and they got it right with the casting. I don't know the actor's name offhand, but I thought he was brilliant in the film. And yeah, you get that the feel, just the kind of kid about town. You know, he knows what he's doing, and there's a great sequence where him and his friend take the day off school. They kind of skive off, and they put their school bags behind this gate in an alley in some kind of street, and then they come back at the end of the day to pick up the school bag. And so just little details like that, which didn't really need to be in there at all, but it's kind of something you would do if you kind of were going to take the day off school. You wouldn't want to be seen with your school bag around, so you get caught, but also you have to lug it around and stuff. They got freedom to just go out and do what they want without having a bag over their shoulder, and you just see them get up to stuff. And there's a great scene where Antoine gets onto what I call the Wall of Death. At least that's what it's called when I went on one of them, which is this big circular kind of amusement ride where people just stand against a wall in this circular room, and the room starts spinning so fast that you literally get stuck to the wall, and then they drop the floor out and you're kind of suspended off the ground, and it's a really weird feeling, but I loved it. I've only been on one of those rides once. I'd love to go on one of them again. And it's just a great scene that just shows how fun that is, but also just captures the wild abandon of taking the day off school, I think. And I don't know, I feel like everyone should experience taking the day off school when you're not supposed to. There's just something so freeing about it. I didn't used to do it that much, but I definitely, you know, did it a few times. And in fact, there's this one, I'll just tell you a story now off the top of my head. This one day I had a drama lesson in school, and I hated drama. I was really shy in high school, and I couldn't face it. I couldn't face having to stand up and give this presentation. So I had a bus pass, so I just sat on the bus all morning and just rode around the same route over and over and over again until the bus driver just said, look, you got to go to school. So I just got off in the town that I lived in, and I went and I sat inside a bush for like 3 hours until school was over, and it was horrible, and I was freezing cold. So perhaps not the best example as a freeing day off from school, but I've had a few outside of that, but that was a really miserable example of one. In fact, my mum caught me once. She got on the same bus. To be young, but I just loved it. It really captured the feeling of kids kind of trying to reach beyond their age, you know, and to try and be more adult-like, because Antoine and his friend, they get the big ideas about what they're going to do. They're going to go off and do this and that, and kind of make their own life for themselves and things, and Antoine is definitely trying to fund, you know, him just going off on his own. That's what he wants to do. He wants to leave his parents behind and all that kind of stuff, and that's where he kind of gets into trouble. He gets arrested. He goes to this juvenile kind of what would you call it, like a young offenders kind of prison, you know, kind of facility, I suppose it would be. But that's where he ends up going, and so we see him go through, you know, just struggles against these adults and things. But it feels very just real and raw and kind of relatable, I think. And I know some people kind of would relate to it through the strained relationship with the parents, or troubles at school, all that kind of stuff. But I just think that there's such a fun spirit to it, even if the things he's doing aren't exactly the best things that, you know, kids should be doing, you know, smoking in some scenes, things like that. But there's just such a powerful charm to the performance of this young actor who played him. I thought the rest of the cast were very good too, including his parents. I love the guy who played his dad. I really liked his character a lot. One of the things that I really liked about the film, and what I think it does extremely well, is the way it depicts Antoine's key relationships. The first with his best friend, I just got such a feeling of kind of nostalgia for it. You know, I could see kind of my own friendships in their friendship. Boys who just hang out and kind of have a good time, and you know, have nothing more in common with each other than the fact they don't like school. You know, it's just one of those things, and it just felt so underplayed and just perfectly done. Just by simply showing these kids hanging out, you got a sense of what their relationship was like, and it just, I don't know, the simplicity of this film is really where it finds its most power, I feel. And then the other key relationship, of course, is with his parents. There's a great scene where they go out and see a film, and they come back and they're laughing and joking. It's such a heartwarming moment. But then once they get back home and the day-to-day life resumes, the harsh realities of life come crumbling in, and it's such an intriguing relationship between the three of them that plays out throughout the film. That's both, you know, heartbreaking but heartwarming and frustrating. You know, I thought that was a real strong point, was this family unit and how they all reacted with each other. And as I already said, the way that, you know, you could see the sides of everyone in a way. And yeah, and then by the time we get to the end of the film, you know, it ended in a very unique way. In fact, I'll do a little bit of a spoiler talk about the ending of the film. But outside of that, you know, it's a very simple film. That there's not much of a big kind of 3-act structure and a big kind of progression of the character in a way. I mean, there is and there isn't. You know, towards the end we do get to hear Antoine kind of talking about his feelings and how he feels about, you know, the way things have gone and why he's gotten into so much trouble. So we do get kind of an insight into his mindset, because obviously throughout most of the film we just see him doing and talking about a little bit to his friend, but we don't get to kind of hear the full story of what's going on inside his head. But you do get the sense that he's trying. You know, he's not a complete shithead. You know, he definitely is a flawed character, but one that you root for to do well, I think, which obviously is usually what you look for in a good character. But yeah, and so for me, is it a film you must see before you die? I definitely think it is. It's one of those classic kind of world cinema films, I think, that a lot of people talk about. The 400 Blows. It's seen as a classic. I can see why. I love Truffaut's direction of the film. You know, just the way that he set the whole stage for this story. Apparently, it was very semi-autobiographical. He put a lot of elements of his own childhood into the film, which I find interesting, and so I'm sure for him it was very much a passion project. But yeah, I think it's a phenomenal film that's just a real simple kind of drama that just really works and makes you believe in the characters, and has a good little story to it that doesn't necessarily, again, tell this big kind of overarching, you know, thing where everyone learns their lesson by the end. It's just kind of a character study. And a really effective one, and I definitely think everyone should see it. Again, not very long, so I mean, you wouldn't be wasting that much time, and I can't imagine anyone not enjoying this film. I just think it's a really enjoyable one. So there we go. That's my thoughts on the 400 Blows. Now let's get into a little bit of spoiler talk. So, at the end of the film, he goes to the juvenile camp, and you know, things aren't going too well. Obviously, he's playing a game of football with all the other boys, and he decides he's going to escape. So he escapes, and it's this kind of semi-thrilling sequence, and there's this incredible shot at the end of the film where he's just running down this road. He's running along the side of the road on the grass, and the tracking shot just goes on for, it feels like 5 minutes. It's probably more like 2 minutes. But he runs so far, and it's just this, it's this release, it's this freedom feeling. You know it's not going to last. You know he's probably going to get caught. He'll be going back to that juvenile camp, but it's this moment where he can just get out, you know, and he runs out, he goes to the sea, he runs out to the waves, and then he turns around and almost looks at the camera, it feels like. I can't quite remember if he did look straight into the camera, and we pull in on his face, and then there's a freeze frame when it goes in closer on his face, and that's the end. Really just a nice, powerful kind of just boom for the end. You know, I don't necessarily read into it too much as like a kind of symbolic metaphor or anything like that, but I just, you know, it just feels like right, that, you know, when it freeze frames, it's like, right, that's the snapshot of this kid's, his part of his life, you know. This kind of troubled teenage period, boom, that's it. I mean, I liked it as an ending. It just really seemed to kind of, you know, and there we go, and that was that, you know. And so you can kind of assume that, yeah, he would probably get caught, put back in the juvenile camp, but he would probably start to turn things around after that, or something would change. And obviously, if you watch the later films, you do see that things change for him. And I've only seen the first one so far. I'm looking forward to seeing the other ones. I know they're nowhere near as acclaimed as the original, which is fine. But the second one I saw, was actually a short film, 30 minutes long, was really good and had the same kind of documentary feeling to it. It just felt like you're watching real people, which I really like. And when I say that, I don't mean that it looks like it's shot like a documentary, you know. It's just the way that the characters act. It's just very realistic and natural to me. So that was one of the key things I loved about the film. So there we go. That's it for my thoughts on the 400 Blows. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.